Well, hello. Welcome to the Scale My Ecom Store podcast. Kath Langman, your host here. Thrilled to have you join me for another episode. And today we will be talking about a few actionable strategies to help e-commerce brand owners just like you to grow and scale profitably in this year, 2025. Now, of course, it is the start of the new year, and I know many of you are at least thinking about what you want to do and achieve in your business this year. Hopefully, many of you are in planning mode or have even documented your plans already. Maybe you have been busy setting some ambitious goals for this year. I know that it is, New Year, it's often a time for a lot of excitement and anticipation, but it's also can be filled with a little bit of uncertainty and never more so than right now. So as I record this episode today, Mark Zuckerberg has been in the news announcing that Meta will be removing fact-checking and a whole lot of other policies on their platforms. He says that it's designed to streamline things, but in all honesty, I think it's just going to make these platforms less trustworthy for a lot of consumers in terms of the content that they're seeing on these platforms. So I really think that it's absolutely imperative that as a small business owner, that you take control of your own destiny and you don't rely on these platforms as your only method of communicating with your audience. And there is no way to take control of your destiny if you intend on winging it in your business or in your marketing this year. So today we're diving into how to use your data, your business data, your metrics, when setting your goals and building out and documenting your growth plans for the year. So if you've ever felt stuck or wondered how to achieve consistent sales, even during slower periods, this episode is for you. And we will also be exploring the concept of running 4 major quarterly promotions to help stimulate demand amongst your customer base and to keep the revenue flowing consistently and steadily. So let's get started. And we need to start by understanding where we are now. What is the current business reality in your business? Because, before we can talk about where you want to go, what your goals might be, we really do need to understand where you're starting from. I mean, it's one thing to desire a really big revenue growth goal for the year, whatever that might be for you. I mean, say you want to make $1 million this year, or maybe you want to make $1 million a month, but you're starting from 10K monthly revenue. So you have to accept that whatever you're currently doing is not going to magically generate a much bigger result. It's probably only going to get you the same result that you're getting right now, right? And so if that's your approach, you are likely to end up disappointed at once again missing your goals by a really big margin. So you need to start by finding ways to bridge the gap between your current reality and your desired reality. And this means digging into your data and really getting clear about your current performance. So looking at things like sales trends, what can you deduce from your sales data over the past 12 months? And don't just look at it on an annual basis. You need to look at the cycle month on month. Are there any clear peaks or troughs? And what is the monthly average revenue for each month of the year? Even going so far as to compare it to the same month the previous year. What about your website traffic volume and your conversion rate? What are your top traffic sources in terms of the volume of visitors coming to your website and also in terms of the conversion rate from each of those traffic sources? So looking at your conversion rate overall, but also looking at your conversion rate on those core channels can be super helpful. And then also diving into the customer metrics. How much does it cost you in advertising and in discounts or any other costs to acquire a customer? That means how much do you have to spend in order to win a first order from a new customer? And then also, what is the, looking at the average order value, but also the customer lifetime value, So for example, Some customers might spend, $50 in their first order, but they might then come back every 3 months and spend another $50. So at least over a 12-month period, what is your customer worth to you? Now, let's say as an example, you've been averaging $5,000 a month in sales, but your goal is to hit $25,000 in monthly sales by mid-year, mid-2025. So you'll need to really understand what's driving your current sales, and then you'll need to be identifying where are the gaps, the bottlenecks, and the opportunities. Each of these are going to give you useful information and actionable steps that you can take to close any gaps, remove any bottlenecks, and take advantage of any opportunities that are coming your way. And then looking at, at 25K monthly revenues, what key metrics do you need to achieve to hit that goal revenue? What's the traffic volume? What's the conversion rate? What's the average order value? And then to make those metrics a reality, what are going to be the best levers that you can pull in your business? So, one lever is generally going to be spending money on advertising. Another one might be, how well is your website performing? Do you need to improve the design or the navigation, or find ways to improve the conversion rate? Or is it are people just not adding to cart, or can't find what they want, or don't understand the value proposition? So there's going to be a whole lot of things that you can look at as ways to help you move forwards towards that goal. So the key takeaway for this really is that knowing your numbers gives you the starting point, and that without clarity here, it's going to be really impossible to set some realistic goals or to identify the right strategies that will help you to bridge the gap from your current reality to achieving that goal. And then, further to that, like, how do you set realistic yet ambitious goals for the year ahead? So, because again, it's one thing to say, I want to grow my revenue, but how do you break that into actionable steps? And also, can you give yourself a specific target, not to necessarily set yourself up for disappointment by setting a target that you are never going to achieve, but it's really about being able to measure your progress. And so, when there is a big goal, and whatever that big goal is for you, it can feel quite overwhelming, right? And it can feel huge, and it can feel impossible until you do figure out ways to break it down. And I remember when I was growing up, I used to sometimes feel quite overwhelmed by either a really big project that I might be working on, or just, having a lot of homework to do, for example, when I was in school. And my grandmother used to say to me, Catherine, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's like that in business as well. We need to really just break things down into simple steps so that it's just enables your brain really to just focus on something that's right in front of you, that it's achievable, and that's going to move you a little bit closer towards your goal. So obviously we want to start by defining your revenue goal for the year, and then break it down. What does this look like quarterly? What does it look like monthly? What does it look like weekly? And then how much traffic do you need to get to your website in order to achieve those, shorter term targets? What average order value do you need to achieve? And, how many conversions are you going to need to hit those goals? And, in looking at all of that, you can also start to think about ideas to make your life a little bit easier. I mean, obviously, say, for example, you want to generate $600,000 in annual revenue. That's going to be, if we just break it into even amounts, $50,000 revenue a month. If your average order value is $50, you're going to need 1,000 sales per month. And if you've got a kind of benchmark average 2% website conversion rate, you're going to need 50,000 visitors to your website each month. Now, there will be some, driving a lot of traffic that's probably going to cost you more money in ads, right? So you might be able to make things a little cheaper for yourself by working on increasing your average order value and increasing your website conversion rate, and that way you need less traffic. So there's a whole lot of different ways that you can put this puzzle together And, probably you're going to have to try a few of them, to be honest, right? But to start with, you want to use tools like Google Analytics, your Shopify reports, or whichever website platform that you use, your ad platform metrics, Klaviyo, anything that you're using as a platform in your business. Try and gather as many insights as you can. And really the key takeaway I want you to take from this is that when you do break that big goal into much smaller measurable milestones, it becomes far less overwhelming and just feels a lot more achievable. And when, I think psychologically and emotionally, when we are approaching a big goal, but we can see these small achievable milestones, we gain more momentum and motivation from that, it doesn't feel so intimidating or scary. Next, I really want to, this is a little bit of a tangent. This is something that you probably would do once, but certainly if you've never done this before, you need to take this into account during your planning process. And that is understanding your business model and your gross margins, profit margins. Because before you go diving into specific strategies to help generate that volume of traffic and sales conversions that you need in order to hit your goals, you really do need to understand your business model and your gross margin, because this affects how you are going to approach your marketing and advertising. For example, an e-commerce store that sells other brands, other people's brands, so like a reseller model, is typically going to have lower profit margins than a brand that manufactures and sells its own products direct to consumers. Versus another scenario is some businesses sell products that customers repeat buy regularly, like skincare or any kind of consumable, really, or businesses that have a really huge product range. They might not be consumable products, but they just have a huge range of different things that the same kind of customer might have. So that entices the repeat purchases. Whereas there are other e-commerce brands that sell basically one-off purchases. It could be furniture, or it could be one of our clients is Cozy Go, which makes this really useful bassinet cover that parents can use on their baby's prams, but also can use on the in-flight bassinets if you're taking your child or your baby on a long-haul flight. And so you're really only going to need one of those, right? So the approach to growing your business, depending on your business model and your margins, your pricing, is really going to differ significantly depending on these factors. So for lower margin businesses, efficiency in your advertising spend is really, really critical. Likewise, for single purchase products, you need to definitely be really profitable off your paid ads, but you're also going to be focusing far more heavily on acquiring new customers consistently. Whereas brands that have the repeat buy potential, they can invest more heavily in customer retention strategies like the ongoing email marketing and loyalty programs and things like that. So your business model and your pricing strategy will also dictate how much you can afford to spend on your paid traffic. So, that should go without saying. However, I have heard some horror stories of brands being given fairly generic advice, and what works for one business can send another, and has sent other brands completely broke because their business model and their margins, their profit margins are just not in the same ballpark at all. An example there would be like two of my businesses. So I've got Indigare skincare brand that is our own brand. So we have, manufacturer margins, and we also have the ability to have the repeat ongoing purchases from our customers, and we do. So that is a very different scenario from baby aiders, kids sunglasses. We do have a few repeat purchases in that particular brand, but not anywhere near as many. And with that brand, we are distributing a US owned product. So we're the distributors in Australia and New Zealand. And so the margins in that are very different. So the key takeaway here is that really knowing your margins and your product purchase patterns is really going to help you to tailor your marketing and advertising strategies to help you grow and maximize your profitability as you do grow. Next, I like doing this exercise at the planning time, this time of the year, and this is to work out what revenue proportion you're going to get from your existing customers and from your new customers. Now, obviously, if you are like Cozy Go, who is very much a single purchase product only, then this is not an exercise you would be doing. But for everyone else, I really suggest figuring out how much of your revenue this year should be coming from your returning customers versus your new customers. And I mean, as a baseline, you really ought to be aiming for a good 30%. Obviously, it's going to be different if you're a brand new business versus a mature business. But, and again, obviously, if your product is a single purchase item, this is not going to apply to you. But for most brands, existing customers are a pretty critical revenue stream. It does, having the returning customer revenue is going to help you become a more profitable business over time. So you want to start by calculating the percentage of revenue that you do expect to come from your returning customers. And, alongside that, having some ideas about how you can drive that repeat purchase behavior, ideally without, constantly doing big discounts on, to broadcast email blasts out to your whole database. And then based on your overall total revenue goal, you can determine how many new customers that you're going to need to win over into your business. So for example, if 40% of your revenue is going to come from repeat purchases, then the remaining 60% has to come from new customers. And from there, you can kind of work backwards. So, based on your average order value and your conversion rate, how much traffic, you can calculate how much traffic you're going to need to get to your site to acquire the required number of new customers. And then, as a step on from that, if you focus most of your advertising on new customer acquisition and spend your ad dollars there, then how much do you need to spend on your ads to drive the required amount of traffic to your website? So the key takeaway from this step is to break your revenue goal into customer segments. And this is going to allow you to focus on both customer acquisition and customer retention in a really balanced way, and to have different strategies for each of those kinds of marketing. Next, you really want to be looking at some low-hanging fruit opportunities. There's definitely going to be some bigger projects that will take longer to implement and longer to get the benefits from. But to fund all of that, it can be a really smart thing to do to look for some low-hanging fruit opportunities that are just going to be easy wins. So before you dive into big campaigns, you want to take advantage of any of these kind of quick wins that can impact your revenue in a positive way without requiring a massive time or financial investment. So some ideas here could be, website conversion rate optimization. So there could be some small improvements to your website. It might be, can you improve or speed up website page load times, or can you is there anything that you can do on your product pages to make the calls to action clearer, or have better product descriptions or images that will help not only improve or increase the add to cart rate, but also by extension boost conversions? Or with your email automation in Klaviyo, are there any missing automated flows like your abandoned cart emails or your win-back campaigns or new subscriber welcome series? Or can you look at what your current flow results are against benchmarks? So you should all have benchmarks in your Klaviyo account, and see if you can identify some low-hanging fruit opportunities there. And then also, is there any way that you can identify an upsell or cross-sell opportunities? And this, again, you can do that using Klaviyo, but you can also use some apps or pop-ups or, post cart incentives to encourage customers to add extra products to their website as well. We've had some clients have some amazing wins by taking this kind of low-hanging fruit approach. Remember, a year ago, our client Coastal Kids, we helped them to implement a new subscriber welcome flow, and that increased their revenue for the month by nearly 6 figures, so nearly 100K. Don't remember the exact figure, but it was significant. Or our client, The Waste Free Home. You might have seen, I shared a case study of theirs just before Christmas. And so when they started working with us, the first thing to work on was a updated website, some updates to the website, really looking at making the navigation a bit more intuitive, the content layout and design more intuitive, but also tailored to the customer avatar, and also just some really simple, basic on-page search engine optimization updates. And just in doing that, so there was no other extra activities, no extra advertising, no other marketing in place at that point, and they were able to increase their revenue by about 45% in 1 month. So the key takeaway here is that, sometimes the small incremental improvements where there's some low-hanging fruit can really add up to some very significant results in a fairly short time frame. Now, obviously, you shouldn't take away from that this is all you do and that you never look at the bigger long-term projects, because we need both. But, when you start here with the low-hanging fruit, then it can help fund the rest. And then we want to try bridging the gap with quarterly promotions. These are the major promotions that you want to plan for the year. Now, and this helps to address one of the biggest challenges in e-commerce, which is inconsistent sales and, having the peaks and troughs. So one of the best strategies to maintain momentum is to run 4 peak major promotions throughout the year. And these aren't just for Black Friday or Christmas. I really want you to kind of think beyond the obvious. I mean, obviously, Black Friday can be one of these 4, right? But how can you have a major promotion every quarter? And as you get bigger and you have more resources to hand, from team to finances to product range, etc., and customer base, you can do more than 1 a quarter of these. But, it can be a fair bit of work to do them really, really well. But, if you can have 1 every quarter, in particular, finding ways to have a big song and dance during a time of year where it might not be a typical high, peak demand time for your products. But, some ideas might be in the first quarter, is there some kind of New Year resolution or back to school type angle that you could go for? Or is there a new product that you might be able to launch? I know nearly every year, February is often one of the lowest months, if not the lowest month. I mean, it's the shortest month anyway, in terms of revenue. So looking at your own sales cycle, what is going to be a way to take advantage of the peak demand, but also at certain times of the year to increase demand at a low demand time of the year. Later on in the year, it might be leveraging like Mother's Day, or it could be tapping into something like Plastic-Free July. And, there's going to be different ideas and themes and opportunities depending on your product category, your positioning in the marketplace, and all of that sort of stuff. You could certainly do a end of financial year sale, could be one of your 4 major promos. One thing I would caution you against is making all of your 4 major promos a big discount promo. So if you're going to do a discount incentive through the Black Friday period, try not to do that big of a discount in all of these other major promos. There's always the opportunity as well to have smaller mini promos in and around those 4 major ones. But, these four major ones really ought to be helping you to build your audience, helping new customers to trial your products, helping to drive the repeat purchase, helping to build your brand as well, so that the volume of people who know you exist increases. So there's a number of benefits for doing these sorts of promotions. And I wanted to share one idea from my very first business, which was a modern cloth nappy brand. Now, cloth nappies, not usually the first product that you think about as a Christmas gift. And so Christmas was generally a lower sales period of time in that business. And so something that I implemented was a limited edition Christmas design. And so I think one year we did a candy cane design, another year we did a gingerbread man design, but we had this limited edition design, and we made that design into all of the key products that we had in our range, and that really lifted sales massively at a time of year where it was generally a low sales time because it was a non-gift type of product. Another thing that we've done more recently in Baby Eaters was a limited edition product launch, and that's something that we do every year. And in Indagare, we have been doing a trial pack promo. So, there's a variety of different ways that you can approach this. And again, it's going to depend on your product category, your positioning in the marketplace, like what your peak and trough sales times are, and all of that kind of stuff. So the key takeaway, though, is implementing quarterly major promotions can really help to stimulate demand and keep your sales consistent, even during those sales troughs or downturns. And just a quick shout out here, I do actually have a really cool resource that is all about how to run product launch and sale promotions for e-commerce. I can't remember what the link for that is. It might be katherinelangman.com/launch. I'll make sure we get it in the link in the podcast show notes for this episode, so you can head to the show notes to grab that if you want to. And then beyond that, you want to set yourself up for success by finding ways to stay consistent with your traffic and sales results using data-driven adjustments along the way. I don't think anyone who uses digital marketing or runs a online-based business like e-commerce should expect that you can implement a strategy and then tick that off your list and never have to look at it again. Or certainly, you can't approach these things assuming that if you don't get the desired result after you try something once, that means it didn't work. That's just not how this works. What does work is a consistent method of monitoring and optimizing over time. And data is going to be your best friend here for staying on track as well. So during as well as after each promotion, you want to take time to review your metrics and to really get your head around what worked and what didn't. So keeping track of your traffic and your revenue results and measuring them against your targets or your progress towards the targets. Looking at which traffic channels performed the best, were your offers compelling enough? Also looking at things like, testing different messaging angles or creative types of creative as well. And, maybe A/B testing things like headlines, subject lines, etc. And, really trying to understand a little bit better every week, every month, every quarter, what resonates most with your audience so that you can just get better at doing what works and drop what's not working so well. So the key takeaway here is to have some flexibility and being a little bit nimble and responsive to the data that you are generating over time, having a process in place where you're looking at this on a regular basis and putting yourself in the position where you can have these data-driven insights and make the decisions based off data to help you refine your strategy and help you to optimize and get better results over time, because this is what's going to get you closer to your revenue goals. Certainly, you don't want to wait until the end of the year before you actually look at your results and progress and think, bugger, I've only got a couple of weeks left and I've completely missed the mark. So don't do that. Now, my final tip here and this is really about how can you stay focused and motivated? Because, sure, we all kind of tend to have a little bit more energy and motivation at the start of the year. It's pretty hard to keep that, sustain that over the whole year, and particularly in e-commerce. By the time we get to the end of December, we're exhausted, right? So before I wrap up in this episode, I want to share a few final tips to help you stay on track and maintain your focus, maintain your motivation, maintain your momentum. And I definitely want to put a good word in for using automation tools like Klaviyo to help as much as you can. But in doing so, you still want to stay customer centric, and you really do want to keep your customers as the driving force with everything that you do in your marketing. So tailoring your promotions, finding ways to align all of the content, all of the promotions, all of the products that you launch, all of the marketing efforts and advertising that you do with your customers' behavior and their preferences, and trying to think long term as well. I mean, it's very difficult to keep moving towards a very distant goal when it's a little bit like watching your kids grow up. Like, it feels like they're never going to get there, and all of a sudden they're 18 and they did get there. It just, when you're seeing something every day and you're in it every day, like you are as a small business owner, it can be hard to notice the progress because it can be small. But just keep reminding yourself that each small win really does bring you closer to your ultimate goal. But probably the biggest and most impactful thing that I can share, and that this is not unique to my experience, is surrounding yourself with the right people. This doesn't have to be paid, but certainly it can be. And really just getting the right kind of help that helps you to stay laser focused to your current situation. Having someone or a few people around you to help you stay accountable and on track. I mean, particularly if you are a small business owner who is, doesn't have a team present with you. Like if you're working at, in a home office or anywhere alone, it's quite a lonely journey. It can be anyway. And so finding your tribe of people, like-minded people, to help you stay focused, to be focusing on the right activities that are going to accelerate your growth and to hold you accountable so that you actually get the right shit done when you say you're going to get it done. It's very difficult to be the one who has to stay self-motivated all the time. It's not like when you're at school, is it? And when you get told what you have to do and when the due date is, you have to make that work for yourself and set your own due dates. So finding ways to stay accountable and on track is really going to help you to accelerate your results and really, maintain some momentum as well as energy for what you're doing. So ultimately, what I really want you to take away from today's episode is that winging it is just not going to get you anywhere this year. Instead, you really need to be using data to understand your starting point, to set your clear revenue goals, to be running quarterly major promotions, and to using a data-based approach generally that is going to help you to bridge the gap between your current reality and where you really want your business to be by the end of this year. Now, if you are ready to dive a little bit deeper into this and you want to have a little bit more help, two things. If you're listening to this episode when it's going live, you probably have time to sign up for my live workshop. I'm actually doing a workshop on Friday, the 10th of January. And this is where I'm going to be with my team building out the Baby Aiders Australia annual growth plan for 2025 live in a workshop scenario so that you can join me. So this is a seven-figure kids fashion accessory brand. You can join me live and kind of play along, and I will guide you through this planning process. So if you want to sign up for that, you can head to catherinelangman.com/workshop. And aside from that, if you are ready to really take 2025 by the reins and take control of your destiny this year, and you do want to have a bit more hands-on expert help from somebody like myself and my team, the first step would be to just have a conversation. There's absolutely no obligations by just having a conversation. You can do that by heading to productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk. And that is where you can book into our calendar. I will put those links as well on the podcast show notes page for this episode. But other than that, thank you for tuning in to the Scale My Ecom Store podcast again today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And here's to an amazing 2025. I will be with you on the show again next week. Bye for now.